Welcome back to the Toffee Blues again, where Terry, Sam and I are going to bring you another player performance review for this season's first team squad. And our next review will be on Everton's number 9, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Only 23 years old, it's hard to believe he's already been part of the Everton first team for 4 years. We've been waiting for him to kick on and improve as a goal scorer for a while, and this season it looks as though he's finally stepped up. 13 goals at the close of play before lockdown, and 9 games left if the season resumes to try and better that tally. So comfortably the best goal scoring of his young career. So we'll start with you on this one, Sam. We've got to be pleased with Calvert-Lewin's progress this season, surely.
Yeah, it's a mad one, isn't it? There's not many players like Calvert-Lewin who've kind of bounced back from the opinion I think a lot of people had formed of him, especially this season. You know, I remember as far back as, like, it's mad to think how long he's been in the team for, really. I remember when we had those Europa League qualifiers under Koeman in that kind of last kind of fateful summer, and I remember he scored and won the games. It was a really nice finish, but it might have been at Rosenborg, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, he just didn't seem like a natural goal scorer. But then sometimes, like, I think it was Sunderland in the Carabao Cup not long after that, then he'd score a really nice finish, and I just didn't know what to make of him. But halfway through this season, for me, just before, or at the time Silva was sacked, I was done with him, really. I just thought, he'd missed chances. I think there was that Villa one at the start of the season. He wasn't scoring goals. He had all the hard work, but you just thought, I just got to the point where I was like, if you're going to be Everton's number 9, you've still got to score goals. It can't just be the hard work. And it kind of felt like a lot of other people had reached that conclusion, but what a kind of rebirth at such a young age as well. It just looks a totally different player, looks to have all the confidence in the world. You're getting to the point now where you're expecting him to score. And to be honest, if we were in any other climate and the season would have carried on the way it was, he probably would have scored 15, 20 goals, and we might have had your Manchester Uniteds and a few other teams knocking at the door for him, because that's how good he was playing, and generally been, I think, head and shoulders above the rest. Probably definitely our player of the season, maybe alongside Richarlison. So, and such a good partnership he's formed with him as well. So, just so good at the moment, and I just really hope that at the end of this season and even next season, then he can pick up where he'd left off, because he does look to be thriving on that confidence. I think he thoroughly deserves an England call-up as well. I think Dominic Solanke's played for England and he hasn't. It's a bit of an insult, and he is just on red-hot form, and he's just got it all, hasn't he? He's fast, he's strong, he's physical, he's not scared of defenders. He loves winding people up, which is always good to see, and then he knows where the back of the net is. So Everton have stumbled across a gem, I think, in Calvert-Lewin, and he could save Marcel Brand's 20, 30, 40, 50 million in the future, because he really is looking that good a prospect. And in an age where teams every summer are scrambling around to try and find the next goal scorer, Everton could have had one in the ranks all along, and testament to your David Unsworths, your Duncan Fergusons, your coaches who worked with him every week over the last 3 or 4 years, and then also, and then you've got to probably credit Koeman and Silva and now Ancelotti as well for each working with him. But certainly looks like he's thriving off the management style of Ancelotti and being given that kind of responsibility up front with Richarlison.
I think there's no doubt about it, though. With Carlo Ancelotti, you're talking about a style of a manager who's levels above the previous managers we've had. And what do you think that kind of him? He surely has a much more telling impact on players when you bring in a manager of that calibre.
I think he said, didn't he, this week even? He said it was great in that, but he said one of the biggest things that Ancelotti did was he just didn't say too much. Ancelotti, is an experienced manager, and he's obviously worked with more high-profile characters than Calvert-Lewin in his time, but I think he'd learned that thing of, he just didn't say too much, just didn't give him too much to take on board. He scored those 2 goals. Excuse me. He scored those 2 goals against Chelsea, and I think Ancelotti just told him to carry on doing what he was doing, and that's what he's done. And I think definitely there must be that sense of puffing out your shoulders and thinking, look, if I'm good enough to start up front for Carlo Ancelotti, then that I'm good enough to play in this Everton team, to wear the number 9, to play in the Premier League. So, no doubt that Carlo's having an effect, and it really does seem like his man management skills have been spot on with Dominic as well.
I think there was a point where I think he told the press, didn't he, that Carlo asked him to stay more central, and obviously I think that's really reaped his rewards.
Yeah, and I think then, to find that part, it was the Chelsea game, wasn't it, when Calvert-Lewin scored twice, and him and Richarlison were that dynamic duo that I think a lot of people thought, bloody hell, why haven't we been doing this for ages? When he is more central and, he causes the problems, and you can't discount Richarlison's impact, because I think, Calvert-Lewin, when he was playing by himself, he was winning the headers or he was giving defenders problems, but there was no one around him. And I think since we went to that 4-4-2, he's just been able to use his strengths not only to get himself goals, but for the team as well, and to bring other people into the game. So, making him that focal point of the attack alongside Richarlison has been a masterstroke from Duncan, and even better than from Carlo to stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing, is obviously you brought in a manager I think he's always been an adaptable manager, Ancelotti, with the different styles of play that he's used at different clubs. But the fact that he's come into the team, obviously with the caretaker manager who just changed it to 4-4-2 and stuck with it, I've been quite impressed with that from Ancelotti. It's quite easy for managers to come in with the egos and these big ideas for philosophies and whatnot, but he's come in and he's been very adaptable, a lot more pragmatic than a lot of previous managers have been, and he doesn't seem as stubborn, which is, I think that really helps with that kind of flexibility, helps players, I think, especially when they're going through dry spells. Obviously it's been a whole new level of goal scoring from Calvert-Lewin since Ancelotti's arrival.
Yeah, and it is just... It set the foundation, hasn't it? I really think now, I know it felt like we've said this every year for about 10 years now, but it's exciting now next season that, we do certainly offensively have a bit of a shape that works. We've got 2 players who are scoring goals, and I know we still need to finish this first season, and anything could still happen, and we could lose all our last few games, and we'll be kind of looking at it from the other side. But at this point in time, I'm generally thinking, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, they don't half suit each other. They don't half suit that system that Ancelotti seemingly likes, and that's got to give you high spirits. If we can plug a few gaps in this current market and moving forward, then we've got a forward. I don't reckon any centre back or defender in the Prem would be happy waking up on a Saturday morning saying, I've got to defend against Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, because they've got bags of energy. They're strong, they're aggressive, they're fast. Calvert-Lewin wins a lot of headers, got a leap that, it's almost like Cristiano Ronaldo, like the way he jumps, isn't it? The way he hangs in the air. I've never seen that from an Everton player before. So yeah, it does seem like Carlo's stumbled on something, stuck with it, and it could pay dividends for us hopefully next season.
Certainly. What about you, Terry? What do you think Calvert-Lewin's brought to his game this season that maybe he didn't have before?
He's just found where he fits, doesn't he? I mean, he's been in the team for a long time, but he was sort of mistreated, wasn't he, by various managers? Like, he came in under Koeman, and Koeman was playing him wide, a lot, and
wing back.
Yeah, wing back in one game. The fact that he was his physical attributes sort of betrayed him a little bit, because he was fast, he was strong, he had all the tools physically, as Sam touched on, and he was such a hard worker, and so willing to put the graft in. Koeman used him as a utility player. Then obviously after that we didn't get the replacement for Lukaku, and he was thrown under the glare of the spotlight as the number 9 in the team, and he wasn't ready for it yet, and he certainly didn't suit being up front by himself. So it coloured the opinion a lot of supporters had of him, including myself. I certainly didn't see him as a number 9 in that respect. I thought for a long time, this was my take on Calvert-Lewin up until recently, that he was the second striker. He was the type of player like a Stephen Naismith. He needed to be on the pitch with another striker who was the main top striker. So if he'd have been on the pitch with Lukaku more like later in Calvert-Lewin's career, not when he was a kid, if he'd have played in a system where he was just off Lukaku in like a 4-2-3-1 or whatever, I didn't think he'd suddenly start turning on the goals, but I thought you'll see a lot more and appreciate his ability a lot more in that position, that sort of Stephen Naismith, make space for other players type position. I didn't think for a second in a 4-4-2, we need to see Calvert-Lewin in a 4-4-2, because I genuinely thought at Everton at least that formation was extinct. We hadn't seen it since pre-David Moyes era. But obviously, as you said before, Duncan Ferguson went to an orthodox 4-4-2 and Ancelotti's took that on, and to everyone's surprise, myself included, he hasn't become this Stephen Naismith sort of, assistant to the main striker. He's become the main striker. He is the main striker, and it's just added a different dimension to his game. He looks more like a number 9 now in a 4-4-2, and with him and Richarlison as a partnership, we've got something there, and I'm thankfully both signed up to new long-term contracts which reflect their position at the club, which is probably the two strongest pillars in the squad of to build upon. They're going to be the two names on the team sheet whenever they're fit going forward, because they complement each other so well. Calvert-Lewin is a perfect foil for the type of striker Richarlison is, and Richarlison's the perfect foil for the type of striker Calvert-Lewin is. So Calvert-Lewin, under this manager, under Ferguson, and in a 4-4-2 formation, has become the player he was, he wanted to be, and he was, meant to be. To the surprise of, everyone. No, I don't think anyone saw a great goal scorer in him until, he started banging the goals in. It was not something that, you would have said his main attribute was that, he can find the net. It was always his hard work, and that worked against him, as I say. He said, didn't he, that Ancelotti said to stay central and make himself a presence, and it was music to his ears, because every other manager had told him to run the channels and what have you. And he's had some brilliant games playing like that. Away at Man City gets mentioned a lot in the season where Koeman and Walsh and all those players. He terrorised the Man City back four by himself. Got Kyle Walker sent off. I genuinely thought that was what he was going to be. He was going to be that nuisance type player. I didn't see him as a box number 9 striker, but that seems to be what he excels at. And I think he's been, from December onwards, he's been a revelation. And if it hadn't been for COVID-19, he would have been in the next England squad, and deservedly so. And I hope that he still gets the call up whenever the next England squad is.
Most certainly. And I think what it's worth, we were talking about the kids earlier on, weren't we? And I think another good thing of the switch to 4-4-2 is that we'll get to see, I think that's the formation the under-23s use as well. So there's a bit more synchronicity there, isn't there?
Well, if it isn't already the formation the under-23s use, I'm sure Sam will let us know. But it's probably going to be it going forward, because that seems to be the way the club is going to set up going forwards. Play 4-4-2, and if you can't, obviously a lot of players won't suit that, but we're reaping the benefits of sort of other players who do suit it, like Calvert-Lewin himself. So if you don't suit it, I think you need to be speaking to your agent about going somewhere else, because it's not a position you can hide in. You can't blag it in a 4-4-2, because every single position needs to stand up and be accounted for, and the strikers, Calvert-Lewin especially, do that.
Well, that's the thing. The formation's brought a lot out of him, but obviously you've still got to finish the chances. And do you think that's just a confidence thing that's come maybe with the assurance that Ancelotti's brought?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. I think he's finding himself having more space, so he's under different instructions now, so he's getting more opportunities, he's getting better opportunities, and yeah, I think confidence is a big thing as well. Once a lot of players a bit like purple patches and what have you. Earlier in the season he had that miss against Aston Villa, which got screenshotted before he hit it, and people were like giving him pelters for it, because he's missed what seemed in a freeze frame to be an easy chance, but he had the knack of scoring before the postponement of the league. Even goals where it didn't look like he was entirely in control of himself, like away at Newcastle, where he somehow bundled it in, and against Chelsea it was a scruffy goal. But that's what strikers do. It's what number 9s are meant to do. They don't all have to be Puskas nominated goals. Some of them need to be scruffy tap-ins. Some of them need to be lucky, like the Man United one where he just chases down the ball and keeper does him a favour. They all count, and that the more of them the better, because his confidence will grow, and he'll take more chances like that, and he'll get more rewards.
Well, fingers crossed that's what the future holds. We're going to finish with our, obviously, verdict out of 10. What about you, Terry? What would you go with for Dom out of 10 this season? Calvert-Lewin, of course, not Cummings.
8 out of 10. He only loses the 2 because earlier in the season, which I'm not going to even say he was terrible in, but to get any higher than an 8, you'd have to do it all season. But from December till the postponement, he was fantastic, so I'm going to give him an 8.
Sam?
I think it's pretty harsh from Terry. I got to go 9 for DCL, defo. The goals he scored, and got to remember we're still, I know it seems mad, but we're only partly through the season, aren't we? He could still end up with 15, 20 goals, but you'd almost certainly say 15. A good end to the season would see 20 goals. An Everton striker scored 20 goals in the Premier League season at that age would be something else. So, yeah, I think 9 out of 10 could push on. Could push on towards the perfect 10 if he scores over 20 goals for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it takes for an Everton striker to get a 10 out of 10. You've got to be in the 20s for scoring goals, and you never know, it might happen. For me, I'm going to stick with the 9 as well. I think that's the right shout. I mean, for me, the reason that he gets a bit higher than what maybe Terry gave him is that, obviously, yeah, he didn't do well, but we're talking about the extent of his improvement from where we were at the start of the season to where he was when the lockdown was announced. I think the progress he's made that's testament to his work rate and obviously of the manager as well. But I think the progress that he's made and how hard he's worked to come so far this season, I think he deserves a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there you go, guys. 2 9s and an 8 for Dominic Calvert-Lewin this season, so far anyway. And that brings us to the end of the performance review. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, drop us those comments. Let us know just how impressed you've been by DCL this season, and maybe let us know where they could still improve as well. Let us know your opinions and give us a like and subscribe. And thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.